My name does not exist in English. I teach ESL at a public school where my students call me Miss Molly, and my last name is an unspoken shadow of my identity appearing only in my signature. When my keen eyed students see it, they ask why, unlike other teachers, I do not use my last name. I tell them how many emails have gotten lost on their way to me. How even when they see my name typed, people can't spell it correctly. How every time I compete in a poetry slam, the host conveniently forgets half my name. I tell them my name carries a history of mispronunciation. People who call me Rogers, Stroges, Snoges, Scruggs, Skogs, Skags, or just stop at the S and hiss like a kettle, unable to squeak out the next five letters. My students can tell you that when enough people forget your name, you have trouble remembering it yourself. The double L of Valle has become the English Valley. The Kachjangs now introduce themselves as Kat Jang, and Klaus no longer protests when called Claus. These names do not exist in English, but we have forced them to assimilate to our accents. Like my students, my family came from another country. Our name used to be Strogoskas and was changed because English speakers couldn't make sense of it. But not knowing English themselves, my great grandparents mistakenly let the most difficult part of their name remain. The S and R, mortal enemies in my native English tongue, are secret lovers in my name. They met at a crowded Chicago boarding house, both immigrants from the same tiny country, and entwined around each other until no amount of linguistic correction could break their connection. My name is two languages fused. Its phonemes refuse to follow the rules of either or. I may not know what it means, but I know it is a love letter passed down for 3 generations, and I am one of only 5 people to ever bear my name. I do not tell my students this. I tell them how to tell the difference between B and P, or B and V, or B and B. I tell them when to use is and are, and when does doesn't start a question. I am just another English-speaking teacher with whom they have nothing in common. My students have no reason to expect me to repeat their names until I say them correctly, and why should they? When they have lived in this country less than a year but speak my language better than I speak theirs, when they are ordered to study the history of a new country in an unfamiliar language and shooed on to another teacher whether or not they succeed, when the only way to become American is to cut out your tongue. But unlike other teachers, I will not make the mistakes that left myself and my students ashamed of our identities. I tell them your name is your greatest treasure. Do not let them bury it. Paint it on your walls like a map and let your children trace the letters back to their family trees. Scribble it in all of the books that you read. Repeat it to everyone you see, every time you see them. So no matter how many times they don't say it right or don't say it, they will never forget it.